You're listening to Second Cut. This is the independent film podcast where we talk about topics and film criticism, history, theory, etc. Because we just do that for fun anyway. I'm Jacob, and I'm the one who's yelling at Shrek in a different movie.
I'm Sam. I'm the one who got to actually see a good movie this week.
I'm Kieran, and I was a teenage nerd.
Yeah, and he's so hairy that he might be a werewolf. We don't know. Yeah, we watched.
I can confirm after meeting Kieran in person over the weekend. Finally,
Yeah,
it's just like all hair from like the neck down. It's like it from the Addams Family.
yep. I'm like Bill Bailey. You know, as a kid, I thought I was part troll.
I had forgotten my planned. I'm the one who gets left out of meeting in person. You jerks couldn't fly to the U.S. and have a meetup.
No, we decided that the only time like us three are actually meeting up in person is probably if me or Sam get married.
Yes,
That's about it.
Yep. I will.
Or if they finally kick you out of the US.
I will swim across the Atlantic to that. Yeah, we're talking about family-friendly horror because horror is something you have to market to anybody and everybody. You can't limit it to just adults watching people get murdered. It's also got to be kids consuming Halloween media at Halloween time of year.
Yeah. And I want to start off with a question. I can't remember if I put this in the chat, but I will start off with it anyway. Just to get it out anyway. Because I was watching Haunted Mansion and seeing like loads of references to like older horror movies and stuff like that. And then ParaNorman does the same thing as well with like Jason references of all things. And I was thinking back to The Curse of Bridge Hollow, I think it is, that's on Netflix. That's got stuff like that. There's like references to like killer clowns from outer space in it, which it's still marketed for like, you know, 9-10-year-olds can watch it. Like they're not watching killer clowns unless you have an irresponsible adult. So my question is, I mean, we're doing this as family friendly horror, or at least kind of not targeted just for mainstream adults, because we were going to do something Wicked This Way Comes instead of I Was a Teenage Werewolf, which we'll get onto in a minute, and change that around as we went. But my question is, do you think for sort of, we'll say, horror that also children can appreciate and connect with, or younger audience connect with, is it weird that you kind of have to have a certain knowledge of like horror movies anyway, I think, in order to be able to kind of know the slightly not dumbed down, but you know, the kind of
Are the reference it'll be like with like you get like with a DreamWorks animation, are the references to older media there for the parents taking the kids along? Really,
I think it's not just that. I think if you're sort of something like Haunted Mansion, you've got to know, for example, kind of the inner workings of ghosts and spookiness or whatever in order for you to understand what is going on. You have to have a basic ingrained kind of mental map of the tropes.
Yeah, but I suppose most kids will have just absorbed a lot of that through kind of just general cultural osmosis. You know, I mean, they may not have seen all the scary films, but they'll have been dressing up for Halloween. They'll know generally kind of, you know, what each monster's deal is and kind of what they can do, what they're generally out to.
Which is therefore just weird that stuff like people like Frankenstein have like filtered through the cultural osmosis that they're now almost not horror figures. They're kind of stock family friendly ghouls kind of thing, which is just really quite weird.
I'm with Sam. Kieran, I think you're overestimating what kids need to know. So I think about like the stupid like Disney Channel original movies that are like Halloween Town kind of stuff, where they just have their own kind of built-in lore where they explain to the kids, oh, ghosts and zombies and vampires and blah blah blah, and it relies on an ingrained version, but they just kind of make up their own very basic stuff in those. But what this really reminded me of is my niece plays soccer and she's 6, but she's never watched soccer before. or sorry, football. My bad, guys. So
Correct.
she doesn't know what it's supposed to look like, and they're just kind of playing their own bunched up version of it, where they're all trying to get the ball and score. So in a similar way, like we're just dealing with a facsimile of understanding of horror. When you're a little kid watching it, you're just like, oh, this is cool. This interests me, and not like, what is a ghost?
Yeah. And if they're not actively out to see this scary stuff, or parents haven't been irresponsible, plonk themselves in front of a screen with like an 18-rated movie on, or whatever. They've caught a glimpse of it over years. It's been referenced in other pop culture, hasn't it? It's just, even if you don't know what it's actually talking about, they might notice that something's being referenced in The Simpsons. They'll think, well, that's just the Simpsons gag. They won't know necessarily what horror film it's about, but I saw it on The Simpsons, so I can kind of recognize that as a trope, that you see in these kind of things. So.
Admittedly, now I think, strangely enough, or at least for kind of my growing up, like I think I discovered Jekyll and Hyde through Scooby Doo, for example.
Yeah.
There was an episode of that. Scooby Doo is a weird one, and I think we should actually do an episode on Scooby Doo at some point. I will at some point when I get bored, I will go through and rank all of the animated Scooby Doo movies, because they're great. Stuff like, I was actually tempted to change my mind and say I'm going to do Scooby Doo, something like Witch's Ghost or Cyber Chaser or Zombie Island. Zombie Island is a trip. It is insanity. Like it's mental. And like one of the people that I work with has a knitted hoodie with Hex Girls on it from Witch's Ghost. It's like Scooby Doo is weird because it literally is just like, it's a horror movie and it's so influential. Like I mean, it influenced Scream, and then Matthew Lillard went on to voice Shaggy. So
yeah, but I think a lot of them would go on. A lot of us do kind of first encounter references to horror films, through like cartoons, for instance. I mean, and you're saying like you remember first catch Jekyll and Hyde through Scooby Doo. I think I first catch Jekyll and Hyde through Looney Tunes. I think there was an episode where Tweety drinks Dr. Jekyll's potion and turns into this absolutely horrifying bird monster. I mean, it's proper nightmare fuel. It's horrible. So, but they had like references, to like all the Universal horrors in like Looney Tunes. Seem to remember. I think they had Peter Lorre as a character. I think a recurring character.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned, I think before, Scooby Doo in the Ghoul School, where they go and it's like, it's Dracula's kid and Frankenstein's kid and all that kind of thing. So maybe I'm getting stuff from there as well. I'm now looking up. I'm going to have to work out who they all are.
For the U.S., I don't know how much y'all watch this over here, but it's The Great Pumpkin. Charlie Brown has them all dressing up in little costumes and going around, and Charlie Brown getting rocks. So like, it doesn't necessarily say like what a ghost is, but it has the costume and the codes and stuff that you kind of pick up.
Yeah. Okay, it had, Ghoul School had Sibylla, daughter of Count Dracula, Elsa Frankenteen, obviously it's Elsa, daughter of Frankenteen, because we can't call them Frankenstein, because obviously legally different, even though Dracula, you're allowed to call them that, don't know. We need daughter of Wolfman, Phantasma, ghostly daughter of a phantom, and Tanis, named after Egyptian city, daughter of the mummy. There's also a disembodied floating white hand, obviously, an octopus butler, a two-headed shark, Legs, who's a volleyball coach. Miss Grimwood is the headmistress, and she has a pet dragon. Like, I'm gonna have to rewatch School. That was great fun when I was like 9.
But by growing up, like every year, there's a new like Simpsons Treehouse of Horror, and I wouldn't have seen all the things that relate to that, but they're all very entertaining. And again, like made you curious about, oh, this is kind of cool, kind of entertaining, funny, scary, and and then kids do like to be scared to an extent, don't they? They like the thrill of it, they like tell ghost stories at sleepovers and around campfire and stuff like that, So
I make reference, I think, once again to, unfortunately, the introduction to Coraline, where apparently reviewers said of it that one reviewer said that this is a horror story for children or for kind of young people, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. You do have to have these in order to kind of teach lessons and experience them so they can grow up. It is a a formative part of understanding the world. But the
Yeah.
world isn't always great and cheery. And these films are
Um,
part of it.
I mean, the Goosebumps books, I think, were probably one of the first series of books I remember reading by myself. To myself off to read. Like,
Yeah.
I'll get through this series thing. This for me. This is even pre Harry Potter. I think it's probably read a few of those, and then Harry Potter came through, and then it's it's seeking out kind of your curiosity. Seeking out like different things. And just this is cool. I like these kind of stories. I'm gonna find more of them. It's kind of sakes that appetite.
Yeah. I was thinking of also doing something like Ghostbusters, which is the same kind of principle. Because anyone that says that Ghostbusters isn't horror has not rewatched Ghostbusters recently.
No,
I'd argue it's not kids.
Family. It's not exactly family friendly, is it? Because it's got a bit of swearing and it's got an oral sex joke as well. So
Well, and
it's PG in the UK, I think.
I think that moves into the space of like, it's the kind of thing that a parent might watch and the kid gets to watch it or sees bits of it and stuff. Because I love Ghostbusters, so I'm gonna show it to my kid. It's more tame, like adult horror. Might fall under that. Something like Psycho. Like, not that it's tame, but it's tame in terms of like you don't see somebody getting murdered on camera in the same way that you do in a feature film.
I was gonna say my DVD copies of the original Frankenstein to Dracula are both. They're either PG or U for Universal, which are kind of the lowest ratings. And you go, like 100, not even 100 years ago when these came out, these were absolutely terrifying orders. Now it's like, we'll have the 5-year-old watch it. It's fine. Which I think kind of, starts to show as kind of cinema progresses how they go, okay, we need to target for different audiences in order to bring them in. And I think just taste change as well and things like that. And you have kind of new generations kind of opening it up as distinct markets. So I think a lot of it is not kind of anything to do with anything like that. It's literally a business enterprise.
Yeah. Kids are the ultimate exploitation audience because you have to sell 2 tickets at minimum to get in there.
Yep.
Yeah. So
and normally, let's be fair, you're selling 4.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's going to be both kids, because a lot of the time, families will have 2 kids of fairly, at least not massive age gap, maybe 4 or 5 years max, And so if you're taking one, the other one will go through it. So for a couple of years, you might have 3 or 4 tickets sold, whereas it could only be one for something else. So you're always going to have them going. And it's an easy way to shut kids up for a while. In the nicest way, 90 minutes.
In theory,
yes.
In theory, I've been in cinemas in family friendly films, and the kids are not being shut up and not being settled down. They're just like 10 minutes in, they're already wandering around playing their own games, chasing each other, But
it's like, shut up! I actually want to watch Peter Rabbit,
But I do think that the point about like Scooby-Doo and specific Halloween maybe not of The Simpsons, but Halloween episodes of more specific kids programming, probably the easiest way for kids to get into Halloween stuff, which is ultimately about fun when it's kids. You dress up and you have candy, and you dress up like a ghost or a witch or I don't know, the K-pop demon hunters. What?
I'm thinking of episodes of like TV series, even like random episodes of like Pingu or SpongeBob or Dexter's Lab or stuff like that, where it's just like this is slightly horrifying, And
the SpongeBob one where he has to shave him round to make him a ghost, and then at the end he's just a brain.
I'm not thinking of that. I'm thinking of the one where he gets like the magic pencil and makes like a clone of himself.
Doodle Bob.
I think it is. Yeah, that's terrifying. Like, should not. And then you even have things like
the Hashley slasher. There's another one.
Yeah, I mean, you have films where it's kind of not meant to be horrific, but horror elements creep in. Like the beginning of Finding Nemo is a traumatic massacre of thousands of people in a family. Like in 3 minutes in,
we'd say eggs. I don't know about people.
Oh, let's not open that debate here. This is another. You know, things like the toys in Toy Story. You know, Sid's kind of Frankensteinian creations.
Oh
One of the things I was also
Sid's house is proper horror, isn't it?
one of the
Kids,
well, that and the fact he's obviously got the shining carpet on the floor. Ignore that fact. I was also thinking when watching Haunted Mansion, which we'll talk about in a bit, the fact it came out the same year as Pirates of the Caribbean, both off Disneyland rides, and like Haunted Mansion is the gateway horror, but Pirates of the Caribbean, like that, I think that deserves to be more gateway horror than Haunted Mansion, and I will stand by that.
Yeah,
Like,
the main difference for being a family film is that there are kids in one, and then in the other it's all adults and talking about alcohol and why it's always gone.
yeah,
and actually scary at moments, I think, for like a small child probably.
So my question therefore is,
in the same way that like the Indiana Jones films, are in theory suitable for families, but there are kind of violent moments and horror moments in it, and so on there. So
I mean, Temple of Doom was one of the things that got the ratings changed in the US. So
true.
that and Gremlins, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
Which came up when I googled child horror movies. So
what, Gremlins?
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
Well, but Gremlins has got the horrifying tale of the dad dying in the chimney when he was pretending to be Sansa. I mean, it's like, it's not visually graphic, but just the idea of telling that story in a kids' movie is horrible.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about this, are we? How do we define this? One of the things that it has to have. We did this when we were talking about children's films before, didn't we? With Hugo, Manny's Orphans, and that lot. It has to have that kind of audience at the center of it. So if you're aiming it for children, it's got to have children at the center of it. In terms of Teenage Werewolf, we'll have to have kind of teenagers at the center of it as well.
Well, I'll say for Teenage Werewolf, it's so clean and appropriate that it is family friendly.
Yeah, I think Teenage Werewolf is interesting because if we start going into it, I guess we're at that point. Thinking about it, because the word teenager is very recent. The first kind of, it booms in the 1940s, depending on who you go to. The use of it as two words is sort of like 1914, 15, 16, around there. The beginning of its like very, very common usage comes during the Second World War as a singular word, and the whole thing comes with a lot of spending money. So while the boys are away at war, kind of the women are flooding the marketplace. They're getting jobs, they're getting disposable income. Especially in the US, you have an economic boom after the Second World War because essentially most of Europe is in ruins, and to be honest, aside from Pearl Harbor, the US kind of escapes pretty much unscathed. To mainland US, I think they work out that like 2 bombs actually hit. One of them doesn't detonate. It's in a farm somewhere in the middle of nowhere. And you've essentially, we've got a lot of debts to pay off to the US.
We mostly just had a lot of dead young men. And
well, the thing with you guys is essentially you sent them all off, but you didn't actually suffer that much damage, kind of, in terms of a kind of infrastructure thing. So it meant that I think I saw a stat ages ago in a Bill Bryson book, sort of like by 1952, 53, something like that, 2/3 of all white goods are being manufactured in the US. And even if you look at something like the cars, like the size of your cars in the nicest way, Jacob, they're massive. You look at European cars where they have to go down little tiny roads, but also the fact is like they're cheaper to manufacture little tiny cars as opposed to big kind of,
they make you look like little nerds and not like really cool, badass people. Like I live in the Fast and the Furious with my large car.
Yeah, it's going to say we're not in the habit of having 1957 Plymouth Furies going down the road.
Your cool cars are still small. James Bond drives like the tiniest Porsche or whatever. Like,
excuse me, that's an Aston Martin.
My bad.
Thank you. Every Aston Martin is hand built as well, or at least hand assembled now.
That's because it's so small.
Yeah. So essentially, what's happening is you have a massive revolution where sort of, when the men come back from the war, they're now able to flood the marketplace. Jobs are open because manufacturing plants are opening to essentially because everyone's demanding it, and you guys are like, we can make the stuff because you guys can't, so we'll do it. So all the plants are opening. Everyone's, got part-time jobs, full-time jobs. High school education is now compulsory, so everyone's got the education to enter the workplace. All that disposable income essentially means that you can go see the movies.
You can white
Beforehand,
flight to the suburbs and go to the drive-in.
exactly. It's you can move around places because you've got this disposable income. You don't kind of have to rely on your parents, in which case it would be mum and dad that would decide which film you need to go to, in which case they want to go see it as well. You can see your own films. An entire kind of market starts to open up in terms of magazines and music and things like that. Beatlemania is only a few years out, yeah, especially in the US, although the UK as well. And so you essentially go, okay, well, we can start essentially aiming films at teenagers, at this whole new kind of generation that wasn't kind of a thing before. I mean, you had Disney beforehand, but that was aimed at kind of children, 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 and then the idea was after a certain age you can connect with pretty much any adult film that's going. Now we can start to opening it up to a new audience, and Teenage Werewolf is interesting because it's sort of reported that it was the first so Samuel Z. Arkoff, and by the way, the film was produced by American International Pictures. This is one of their early years, so anyone who's heard our Roger Corman episode will know American International Pictures. Hence why this movie is such a low budget and shot very quickly and is complete
Yeah.
schlock in the 50s, Jacob. This explains a lot where you go, yeah, one of their main kind of partners was Roger Corman.
Well, the other partner was like the U.S. Department of, I don't know, socialization or.
Probably, yeah. It's so it's produced by Herman Cohen as well. So it's, again, AIP, sort of that kind of thing. Wiki will say, and it does have a quote, I think from Arkoff. So it's a summarization of something that Arkoff has said himself. That he wrote in his memoirs that he got a lot of resistance from producing a film portraying a teenager becoming a monster, an idea that had never been exploited in film before. And I want to highlight the thing exploited. So this is essentially a marketing tactic. And on an interview with David Letterman I saw earlier today, in the 80s, they firing out names from him. And it's like, he was saying, half the time we'd come up with a name and build the film around it. And he goes, like, I was a teenage werewolf. That's a great title. And I was like, wait, you came up with the name before anything else? Like, yeah, came up with the name and we made a film around it because that is easier to sell like that. So yeah, the whole thing is built around the idea of the teenager, the idea that this is not a film for adults. This is a film that we can market to a specific audience, which is of a lower sort of age kind of boundary. And that's why I think this one is interesting, especially in terms of horror, that it's one of the first films to go, let's not just market it for over the top. Let's bring kind of the age that we're marketing this film down to, which is why I thought it was slightly appropriate for kind of a family friendly horror in terms of kind of your 13, 14, 15 year olds can go see it as well.
Well, Kieran, or go off track a little bit, you mentioned like the kids movies that made me think of the older Disney movies that have horror elements in their fairy tale stories, like witches and sorceresses that are evil and drawn in specific spooky ways and have cool magic
Snow White
powers.
giving everybody nightmares, and Fantasia, the kind of Bald Mountain stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, even the silly symphonies. I'm thinking, is it the Dance Macabre where you've got the skeletons kind of dancing on the bones and stuff like that?
That goes back to what Disney's like main aim of expanding into feature films. You wanted animation to be seen as something that wasn't just for children. That was for the whole family. That was for any audience. That every person sat down to see a Disney film would come to expect a certain quality, certain kind of prestige, but also just there'd be something in there for everyone. They haven't seen before that they could enjoy.
Yeah. I would also say that you can't really make those ones too frightening, because otherwise the kids run out and the adults have to go out after them, and therefore they're not going to stick around for the entire thing. I'm probably not going to recommend it to their friends because they'll go, "Oh yeah, we went to see that, but it was too frightening. Probably don't go and see it if you've got younger ones as well." So you have to pitch that right for a whole family, rather than sort of a horror movie for children and younger audiences. We'll see with something like ParaNorman. I think you could show it to somebody that's sort of maybe 8 or 9, perhaps.
I think what's interesting about this movie, and is definitely an older film thing, is that it's also like science fiction horror, and it's definitely a convergence of like those two aspects, and not just like a werewolf story. There's
Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff I don't think you could make this movie without all the Wolfman movies coming out starting in 41 and Werewolf in London. Obviously, werewolves are starting to come. I think you had them around before. Werewolves are not just a product of this time. Werewolves have been around, and the term has been around for 150 odd years in various guises. So I'm slowly reading through Bram Stoker's Lady the Shroud, and he mentions a werewolf, but spelled WEHR -wolf, but then says that's an offshoot of vampire, therefore it's not worth mentioning at the point I've got to where he's trying to surmise kind of identity of these things. It's interesting. It's in werewolf over there, wolf. It's interesting, therefore, that all these kind of monsters and stuff are kind of, again, homogenous wholes, and I think it's almost film that starts to break them up. Interestingly enough, I was watching, so after Teenage Werewolf was a success, by the way, this was part of a double bill with Invasion of the Saucermen, obviously. which is I had seen
little
before,
plates walking around.
I had seen it before. It's a lot of a comedy, and you eventually see bits of actual Saucermen, although like they start appearing about 40 minutes in. And this is actually quite common for all of these sort of films. Like the actual monsters appear in like a sort of 65, 70-minute runtime at around the 40-minute mark, maybe 35 minutes if you're lucky. Because obviously it's cheaper on the prosthetics and everything like that to have them only appear right at the end. You can claim it's to build suspense. It's like, yeah, but we don't have to bring out the costumes as much. What happens if they get wet, kind of thing.
Kieran, I'm sure you have stuff you want to get into about this, but because you're on history stuff, where does the Chewbacca werewolf style come from?
I would say this is still a hangover from the Wolfman. And essentially, this is a cheaper version than the Wolfman makeup, even 16 years on. That's how I would say. And it was also weird. It feels a bit like kind of the early sort of Jekyll and Hyde sort of stuff. A very bestial. And this is a more Jekyll and Hyde version. This is we can revert to a primal, more bestial form rather than changing the form. And he just happens to look like a wolf, therefore it's a werewolf.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing to the moon, but instead it's a mad scientist experiment to prove something about humans? Question mark.
Yeah.
He keeps calling like this amazing scientific breakthrough. It's like, to what end? What is this for?
Teenagers suck.
Essentially, yeah.
Brilliant.
I think you'll find the reason for that is because this was written very, very quickly. And when I say
surprised?
kind of, yes, when I say very, very quickly,
Written in a day, shot in a week.
Back to napkin.
Yeah, something like
back
that.
to napkin while I was driving.
Yeah, it might have been this one, or it might be one of the others. Why am I thinking Blood of Dracula? That was like sort of written in a week and shot in the next sort of thing. Very AIP, very Corman style. The movie. I Was a Teenage Werewolf. Put it this way, it was shot in 7 days. Boom.
And it looks
interesting.
it.
Yeah, but it's interesting because of the success of this, it's the first of 4 sort of teenage monster movies produced by AIP, and I've now seen them all. So you had this, you had I Was a Teenage Frankenstein, which is essentially mad scientist he's a descendant of Baron Frankenstein and reckons he can do things, but the excuse is that he's going to get body parts from teenagers because they're young and strong and healthier, and therefore the body won't decay as quickly. And so essentially you just get a normal person and you keep their head bandaged up for most of the film, and then you reveal that it's got like awful makeup on for most of the movie. You then get a movie
A
called
lot of
Blood of
dead
Dracula.
teenagers in that town.
Called Blood of Dracula, which has nothing to do with Dracula. It is essentially girls' school. I was a teenage werewolf, but instead of turning into a werewolf, they turn into a vampire. Interestingly enough, for this is one of the only things I've heard of, and kind of proves my the Dracula problem theory. They refer to vampires and also call them a Dracula. So Dracula in this movie is another term for vampire. Although, fun fact, there's a reference to the person she's a sort of chemistry teacher there, but almost doing that while she works on a PhD thesis. And her thesis that she can hypnotize people and turn them into kind of blood-sucking vampire kind of things. Again, pretty much the same principle as I was a teenage werewolf, but she reckons that she got some stuff from the Carpathian Mountains. Like, oh, Dracula reference tick.
Yeah. Yeah, which they also refer to in this, don't they? I mean, it did make me kind of think, surely vampire would be a better allegory for like a horny teenager kind of thing. But I thought, well, maybe vampires, are a bit too sexy. You couldn't have like, for the period, for the censorship laws, you couldn't have like a teenage boy going around and biting a lot of girls probably at this point.
Yeah, but then after those, you have How to Make a Monster. Which I had actually seen before in passing. And essentially, what happens is it's kind of just a random story where kind of almost like a witch doctor kind of possesses kind of teenagers to put on masks of, sort of horror movie masks he's got and attack people. And two of the masks he's got are kind of the werewolf from I Was a Teenage Werewolf and kind of the mask from I think it's Frankenstein, Teenage Frankenstein.
Did Halloween Season of the Witch steal this plot?
Who knows? I tell you which plot it didn't steal. It didn't steal Nigel Neal's idea. Because Nigel Neal pitched an idea for Halloween 3. John Carpenter rejected it. Then essentially remade Stone Tapes as Prince of Darkness, and Nigel Neal was very upset about that. But yeah, so it's all part of this kind of thing of kind of shoot very quickly and get them out very quickly. And again, I think it's interesting from a kind of historical point of view that these are some of the first horror movies that are specifically aimed at teenagers that have this disposable income and can essentially do that. And it's kind of, I just love the fact that it's like, I Was a Teenage Werewolf. What a cool title for a film. Let's do it. And again, you couldn't have done that 20 years before because teenager as a term was not in common usage. And this is kind of the first I was re-listening to The Rest is History, did a podcast on teenagers many years ago. And they were saying kind of around this time, by the time you get to the mid-50s, these are probably the first years where somebody who is a teenager, what we now call a teenager, thinks of themselves in that term. So even sort of 10 years before that, you might have marketed it that, but the people going to see it probably wouldn't have thought of themselves as teenagers because the term hasn't caught on enough yet.
Because before that, you're a child, you went to school, then you left school, started dressing like your dad and went to work. That was it. There was no like in-between phase.
You worked in the fields because your family had 8 children so that you could be labor for them, and 2 others died.
Either that, or I was going to say, people are kind of living longer, they're healthier. We've got advances in medicine. They're bigger, taller. Can do a lot more stuff. They've got the disposable income. The movies need to be a market for it, and especially stuff like the drive-ins and stuff like that. Invasion of the Saucermen has kind of a lot of activity going around Lovers Lane. You need the cars to be able to do that. So you need to have this manufacturing. You need to have kind of all these things going on in order to have the plot points. I don't think a Lover's Lane with kind of cars parking up there would have been a thing 20 years before that. So it's all very much a product of this time that you need to have these things in here in order for the plot to work. Having said that, I Was a Teenage Werewolf is not a very good film.
No,
it's not. It's a cash grab. It was shot in 7 days. It is, you're a troubled young boy. Why don't you see this, always getting into fights. Why don't you see this kind of psychologist, hypnotist guy? He can help you. And the psychologist, hypnotist guy goes, let me see if I can enact my evil sort of plan, see if I can create a monster out of this. Guess what? The guy turns into monsters occasionally and kills people in high school gymnasiums and the likes. And eventually it's kind of, I'm turning into a monster. What do I do? And they have a big thing at the end and, have to end it in, well, this all turned out right in the end, sort of thing. What a pity. Da, 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 the end.
I think you wait for the guy from Twilight Zone to pop up, but he doesn't because they couldn't afford him.
That's Rod Sterling. Yeah, you do you do sort of 10 minutes in, just expect picture of a man. You know, he's about to step foot into the Twilight Zone.
What is a
This
teenager
probably actually
but a gross, hairy animal that everyone hates?
This gross hairy animal is about to step foot in. You know, like, tell you what, this would actually have made, like, for 25 minutes, an interesting Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah.
I'm not actually lying. There would have been an interesting idea. Maybe it is one somewhere.
They couldn't even hit 80 minutes.
Yep. Welcome to AIP. Yeah, that's because they didn't have another day to film. They shot this in 7 days. It's like 10 minutes of footage a day. Like, it's ridiculous.
There's scenes
I mean, the majority
in this
of the
horror
AIP
film.
stuff was. The majority of the AIP stuff really is always very quick and cheap. But when you've not got like a Roger Corman on board, we haven't got someone who's just very good at getting the best result of like a Paul Ott, or someone who's actually interested in the subject matter, then you just end up with something that's a bit half-assed, like this is really.
I think the difference is because Roger Corman is a filmmaker that joined up with AIP. Gene Fowler, okay, he had done other stuff. He did It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World, Hang 'em High later on. But I think, well, this is his directorial debut. He works as an editor on those films later on. I think part of the problem is that Roger Corman is very good at what he did. The producers for this kind of are like, well, it's a quick buck. They are there to make money. Roger Corman is there to kind of make films and also make money. These guys are like, as long as it works, shoot it. And again, this is directorial debut.
So these guys are Michael Bay, and Roger Corman is like,
yeah, welcome
Spielberg.
to AIP. Yeah, welcome to AIP.
What blows my mind about this horror movie is that there are scenes like when we did propaganda videos, and I did some, anti-communist one. There's a scene in both of these movies where a kid goes home to meet his girlfriend's parents and like, well, gee, Tony, you sure are a swell fellow. We really appreciate you taking out our daughter and being so nice to her. And the mom doesn't talk, and she has siblings.
Kind of get the feeling you don't like me very much.
God, it's so weird. Like,
it's very quickly written, very quickly given to them, very quickly put out there. It's not got the best reputation in the world.
Its camera work is like a sitcom from the era.
I do have a feeling, though, was it this one, which is in It? What is it that they go to? It is this, isn't it?
It is it, yeah.
It's what Richie and that go to see at the cinema, right? Because this is where the werewolf comes through that Pennywise turns into. So if nothing else, this has an entire section of it after it.
That's its only value.
Yeah, so we basically know that Stephen King went to see this as a teenager, don't we?
Yeah, he became a teenage werewolf.
He copied his look after.
Yeah. I'm looking at kind of pop culture impact on I was Teenage Frankenstein. The original working title for the 1958 film Attack of the Puppet People was originally I Was a Teenage Doll.
Sure.
That's got a whole other connotation there, hasn't it?
Yeah.
That sounds...
But the I Was a Teenage has now become loads of stuff. There's a Warner Brothers cartoon from '63, I Was a Teenage Thumb. 1987's I Was a Teenage Zombie. 1992's I Was a Teenage Mummy. 1993 I Was a Teenage Serial Killer.
I Was a Teenage Lazy Filmmaker.
A working title for Clueless from '95 apparently was I Was a Teenager. Which is amazing.
That would be funny.
There was scenes from this included in the concert film Let the Good Times Roll. which had performances from Chuck Berry and Bill Haley in the Comets. You know, Highway to Heaven, the series from
that makes me
1987
want
had I was a middle-aged werewolf as an episode.
that makes me want now like a Marty McFly-esque Back to the Future I'm a Teenager thing where it's like, hey, you know that lazy trope you were looking for titling your movies? I found it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't wait that he'd go on to star in Teen Wolf, though. So,
Yeah.
which is basically this but with more basketball.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm surprised I haven't seen it in a Rob Zombie music video or lyrics somewhere. It will be somewhere because he's referenced everything else from around here. Apparently, there's an episode of SpongeBob called "I was a Teenage Gary." He transforms into a snail.
Oh yeah. That's a good one.
There you go. We were talking about SpongeBob and the kind of the impacts on kids. That's apparently where they find I was a teenage werewolf from now. It goes the other way. So it's I think it's one of these films now that you watch as an artifact. And it's interesting from a development of film point of view, as a kind of historical point of view. And if you like really bad, schlocky kind of black and white horror movies at this time, and you're on Halloween and you want to get in that mood,
Come on,
that's
but
fairly camp.
even shortly, you want it to be entertaining. You want stuff to happen in it.
I was going to say the trouble with this is that you only get kind of the hypnosis into a werewolf for about 25 minutes in for like a 70-minute film. Like the first werewolf attack comes in at like 35 minutes in, halfway through. At least it's only 35 minutes is halfway through.
It's not even particularly like interestingly edited either to like create, I don't know, the feelings that you want to evoke of horror. Like it's
to have
really
interesting
lame.
editing, you need a variety of shots, which means that you actually have to shoot those shots. If you only have 7 days, you can't do that because you're cranking out, again, roughly 10 minutes of footage a day. Again, the film I was on, it's about a 90-minute movie. We had 20 days, of shooting, and some of those were
How
overtime.
many minutes of usable footage did you get from every one of those days? More than 10, surely.
Yeah, but again, it's what? So I don't know. 90 Miami endings. What, around 90 minutes, 20 days. Okay, so what's that about? 5 minutes a day, roughly, under probably usable footage. We had maybe 4 or 5 times that amount. It's like you're working on a very tight sort of schedule here. A lot of the stuff will be kind of blocked out in order to make sure that your shots are kind of, you can get as much of the action in as few shots as possible, which is why you have all these big wides. And actually, quite funnily enough, I Was a Teenage Frankenstein, and this one as well, doesn't it? And Blood for Dracula all have music sequences in. Because essentially you just go choreograph it all. It's fun. We can do this mostly in one camera shot, and this goes on for about 5 minutes. It uses up some of our runtime. It's not an incredibly great movie, but it's interesting as a historical artifact on kind of the ways that horror changes approach to marketing to a different audience, which isn't sort of the adults with lots of blood and guts, even though you can't do that anymore because of the Hays Code.
Yeah.
And also it's in it.
Yep. Well, we're not getting much better, but I mean, it's definitely more family friendly, or I mean, interesting for families to watch.
Yeah.
So in the year, let's see, what was the year? 1969. Disneyland opens a brand new ride called the Haunted Mansion. And now I haven't been to, maybe I have been to the Disneyland one. I don't remember. But I have been to the Florida one, which I think is the Magic Kingdom one, which opened 2 years later in 71. Yeah, Kieran, we don't get to talk about it enough, is a huge theme park guy.
I am a theme park nerd, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So hopefully he can lend a little knowledge here. All of my knowledge comes from I wrote it once, and
On Disney, I'm not great. What I can tell you that it's a ghost train essentially, isn't it? And the first ghost train was opened at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. I want to say in 1935, somewhere
Blackpool
around there.
Pleasure Beach sounds like a really terrible nude beach in the UK.
It kind of does. It's not much better than a nude beach, actually. Um,
You wouldn't want to go nude in Blackpool in winter, I don't think.
no, you wouldn't want
Things
to
would
go
probably
nude in
drop
the UK
off.
anyway. Yes. But
The
it's essentially
UK.
that ride is why all the rides after are called ghost trains. They are named after that ride.
Well, there you go.
So the type of ride is named after a specific instance. It's still up, as far as I know. It's still up and running,
So
which is incredible.
I don't recall moving through it particularly, other than it's a very long line. Most of the ride, like at most theme parks, is walking through the haunted mansion to get to the actual cart, and there's a huge amount of entertainment there. There's the moving pictures on the wall and this opening hallway illusion that takes you into the mansion, and there are a lot of really cool tricks. But mostly it's just, kind of standard haunted house stuff like statues and paintings with the eyes doing the Scooby Doo thing. And
Yeah. I think because I've been to Disneyland Paris when I was younger twice. I think they've got Phantom Manor. It's
that is
called.
tight.
Uh,
Or they call it Phantom, like Maison or something.
Very possibly Phantom. Yeah, but it's just Phantom Manor as far as I know. And I think that was similar where you had things where you'd kind of go past sort of a line of mirrors and they'd somehow worked it up. I guess it was screen, so you'd see yourself, but they've got like a skeleton on the back of the car as it goes past. To this day, I still don't know how that's done. I have to look that up at some point. I've got a feeling that was one where it's kind of you go into a room and then it kind of takes you down to a below level where they've got most of it set up. And there's a weird thing where they obviously very slightly brought it down. Either that, or if it didn't even go down, but they kind of made sort of the top of this room kind of extend, so it felt like you were going down, even though it was almost like the walls are going up or something similar. Yeah, it's a ride. This is around the time when they're making a lot of things out of theme park rides when this one film comes out. But yeah, Haunted Manor, 1969, whenever it is.
Yeah. Well, Haunted Mansion's 16. There's three of them. One's in Tokyo, one's in Florida, one's in California.
Yeah.
And I guess they have the French get a knockoff version.
Yeah.
So pretty much you get in the little doom buggy and you ride through, and yeah, there's like, ooh, skeleton, spooky, and ooh, graveyard, ooh, haunted ballroom, and you just ride through it. And there's a ghost host who kind of talks to you throughout. There's these named characters and things like that. I don't recall what like the overarching narrative of it is. And I probably should have read about that, but really I don't care because it doesn't matter. It's a theme park ride.
But it's probably not a real estate agent trying to sell a house, is it?
It isn't. So Kieran mentioned that this comes out the same year as old Pirates of the Caribbean, which was also a theme park ride. And this is Disney just really, already with the parks, they're creating these sort of intertextual environments, places where you could go and just live in a Disneyland, and it's the happiest place on earth and you escape all your troubles. But what it really is a capitalist hellscape that's just really miserable. Like when I went, it was so hot. Like it was not the most fun I've ever had in my life.
Yeah. And I've heard with like the latest like attractions at Disney, like Star Wars lands and everything else they've got there. It's like I think the latest controversy of the past few years is they've had to clear like a lot of the seating away to make room for like the new attractions. So, like this family's just walking around and hot all day, just tired of anything, and just wants to rest somewhere. There's nowhere to rest. Actually,
Sick.
got to just go on to the next ride or go into somewhere where they'll have to spend money on food and drink.
Yeah, I'm just looking at because there's a massive Wikipedia article for the Phantom Manor to the Disneyland Paris version. Essentially, it is the equivalent of, but it's specifically designed to be darker than the other versions because obviously, like,
it's more French.
We know the French and French history. Yeah, they can take a bit of aristocracy.
darker thematically rather than darker can't see as much.
Yeah, and kind of imagery because it's located overlooking the equivalent of Big Thunder Mountain, which I think is like Thunder Railroad in the US parks. And it looks more like a kind of American
I think
Gothic.
it's
It
Space
looks
Mountain
like
in the U.S.
no, because Paris has Space Mountain Mission 2.
Oh,
So
interesting.
it might be like Thunder Railroad, the sort of minecart, mine train coaster.
Those are the
that
only
you've
ones
got
I
in the
ride.
US parks.
Indoor, where I can't see, like Space Mountain or mine carts.
Yeah, so those, and this overlooks it in the frontier land. I remember going on, it kind of set on a little hill, but it's specifically darker. Anyway, back on to actual talking about movies rather than me looking up random bits about theme parks, which is my jam.
Chez bon, I don't know, whatever they say. It's, so yeah, Disney is already, just the development of the theme parks. They're just terrible. Money maximizing ideology is just fully in place, and I remember watching like these stupid Magic Kingdom VHS tapes as a little kid that was just like, here's all the stuff at Disneyland that you're not experiencing. And so what they decided to do in 2002, they greenlit the Haunted Mansion movie, which was based on the ride, kind of, as Sam alluded to. It's not about real estate agents. As far as I can tell, it's not about like a dead guy trying to get his wife back or anything like that. But that is the plot of the movie. Is in New Orleans back in the past, I guess the 1800s or something. A man has a girlfriend or wife or lady that he loves, and she mysteriously dies, and then he hangs himself, and now him and his servants and a bunch of people haunt the mansion.
Must admit, I wasn't expecting to see a man literally hanging fully on the screen in the opening minutes of a kids' movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which that is a part of the ride. There is a hanging skeleton in the haunted mansion. Yeah, but no Eddie Murphy in it. So Eddie Murphy, he's known for his stand-up and then his just prolific comedic work throughout the 80s and some of his comedic work throughout the 90s of varying quality. And then in 2001, he does Shrek. And, for a child or an adult now of my age, but a child of that time, like Eddie Murphy was kind of synonymous with fun kids entertainment for me, and not like
I think the first thing I saw him in anything was probably the first Doctor Dolittle.
Yeah, and the Nutty Professor.
And the Professor, those kind of things. He had a period of like about 5 years into that. They were just one film after another like that, basically.
What I remember of Eddie Murphy, aside from Shrek, was that he was every character in a movie where he's playing his grandma and his mom. Is that the second Nutty Professor? I don't remember.
Yeah. Nutty Professor 2, The Clumps.
Yeah, that's
obviously
not one I've revisited. But I remember Michael Scott's Michael Clump character now. It must have been based off of that. But yeah, so Eddie Murphy is a big marketable children's star at this point, so obviously he's cast in it. If this movie were made today, though, they would probably talk about how woke it is and how why are you casting a black lady in a movie about people in love in the past? Oh, there'd be something about that, but nobody cared in 2003, I guess. And that's what the plot of the movie is. Eddie Murphy's wife looks like the dead lady, and everybody's like, oh, she looks just like that lady, and so that's why he's in love with her, even though he's a ghost and she's a person. I don't know how he found her.
So and it's just
we don't need to know that information.
It's just basically recycling the plot from Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula / most of the versions of the Mummy we've seen over the years.
It is Dracula, even down to like a Jonathan Harker estate agents trying to sell the house. Like, it's insane. I said to you, it's a cross between that and the Disney Beauty and the Beast, where they're all kind of transformed and
Yeah.
trapped there by a curse, and only true love can set them free,
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah, except instead of humans turned into like objects, they're just Wallace Shawn and another lady who I don't know who she is.
And I didn't realize until now, because I just looked up the cast,
Jennifer
who
Tilly.
the woman in the crystal ball is.
Oh yeah.
It's Jennifer Tilly, aka Bride of Chucky.
It is.
Like, what the
How
hell are you doing?
how could you not recognize that voice?
I was
don't
gonna
know.
say
I was trying to block out the rest of the film, to be honest.
she's Jennifer Tilly, like doing a deliberately different voice though, which.
No, she still sounds like Jennifer Tilly.
Can we also just obviously point out Ramsley, played by Torrance Stamp, who was obviously Zod, who
R.I.P. Yeah.
R.I.P. Yeah, I don't think we mentioned that. We might have done after he passed away, but obviously we covered him in our Superman episode. So
yeah. Of all the stumbles throughout this film, Terrence Stamp is innocent. I think he does it. He knew his assignment. He does the job. He does it well, I think.
I think of him as the guy in the Phantom Menace. That's what I think of him of, sadly. Poor guy. I'll have to watch more of his stuff. But yeah, I mean, pretty much what the movie is Eddie Murphy being a family dad, you know, sort of media character, where he's a bit bumbling, and boy, is he focused on his real estate career and just singularly focused on that. He's at a bar and people are like, oh, hey, we need to sell our house. And he's like, well, I have my anniversary, but I'm going to talk to these prospective clients.
Yeah. It's the same like recycled plot you get in so many like 90s particular family comedies. You know, it's the same plot as Michael Keaton and Mr. Mom, wasn't it? And the same plot as Arnie in Jingle All the Way. You know, it's always like a hardworking dad who kind of career's more important. And he's going to learn a lesson by the end of it, because of course he is.
Yeah, well, and the lesson he needs to learn is to pay more attention to his wife, I guess, because he ignores the anniversary, or he's late or whatever. But like, he's very interactive with his kids, and so normally what the kids movie is like, oh, I missed your baseball. I'm going to Arnie for some reason. I missed the baseball game, you know. Oh, sorry, kiddo. But in this one, it's like,
sorry, I missed the baseball game.
Yeah,
I will make it up to you.
In this movie, I don't really get what the tension is between their co-workers. Like, they run a business together.
Yeah, they work together.
I've never seen her doing actually any co-working. Like, pretty much never.
Yeah, sure. That's just a discussion they need to have, you know, to split the duties, whether that's childcare and you know, running the business more evenly. You know, use it one day, I'll do it the next day, and you know, they're not having those conversations, are they?
Yeah, but you know, if you're a kid watching this movie, there are two kids in it, and you can identify sort of with them, and one's the precocious one, and one's the, you know, kind of more fun younger sibling. The older one speaks Latin, and she's like, Dad, you're too stupid to solve all these problems.
Yeah, so essentially the beginning of it is the beginning of it is like a gender swap version of the beginning of One Battle After Another. Just saying.
But but it's like from the start, you know, these little kind of drops, you know, about you know, what they're going through will come up later on. So the little boy's scared of spiders. She, as I say, speaks Latin. You know, both these things are going to come up at some point. She's going to have to read Latin to get past the particular challenge, and he's going to have to overcome his fear of spiders. Like the key point.
I was going to say they might have had like, as well, just had like massive TV on TV in the background, and Chekhov just flashes in the background.
It's like in the Lost World, where the only reason they make Jeff Goldblum's daughter be good at gymnastics is so she can kick a raptor through the window later on.
Well, Kieran, now you've ruined for me that I want a scene where the ghost husband guy goes up to Eddie Murphy and says, "You like black girls? I love them." And then
no.
also,
Oh,
I
no.
want the wife to leave like a little note on the door of the mansion as they leave that I'm not gonna say on air. Um,
Yeah.
but anyway,
What we're saying is we're saying Paul Thomas Anderson nicked all of his ideas one battle after another from the Haunted Mansion.
he took a lot of them from this movie, clearly.
Just saying.
But yeah, there is the scene where we're gonna introduce he's scared of spiders, and the way is the kid has Eddie Murphy's Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition in his room, and he's like, "Why you have my Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition?" And then he rolls it up to smack a spider. So that's one of the mildly adult jokes, and then another one, they walk up to a door, and he, uses the door or whatever to knock on it. He goes, "You ever seen knockers like these? These are huge."
Yeah, and I was almost pausing for like a laugh track to come in at that
Yeah.
point, just
Either that or just a shot of like the wife just doing a raised eyebrow, like, as a kind of cue for the adults to laugh, please. No.
Or Kenneth Williams come in and go, "Ooh, matron."
Yes, we will do a carry-on episode at some point.
There is a scene where they're in like a ghost carriage thing driving through the lot so they could get to the crypt so they could find the key to open the trunk. It's literally a video game plot, and it's like
what it is. They went through the haunted mansion.
Or a scavenger hunt.
We went through the haunted mansion. We have these bits of iconography, and how do we make us go from one bit to the other?
Yeah, and in reading about it, like that's Jennifer Tilly's character is in the haunted mansion. She's in the little crystal ball, and then you have the
She just works
ballroom.
here.
Yeah, she's. Sir, that is not my job.
Does her character ever even get a name, or is she just called Green?
It's like
I don't know. I don't
Leota.
see her. I don't see her get kind of released at the end of the film and going to heaven though.
It's Madame Leota, and they take her home in the crystal ball. they own her now. But it's
like, why is she trapped in the crystal ball? Why didn't she get to like go into the afterlife? Like what? It's not fair.
Well, in this movie, they keep saying, is it this, or have I been watching something else? I don't remember. Where they go, well, the gypsy woman said this.
Yeah. They keep referring to her as just the Green Gypsy, basically. It's like, I was thinking, did she ever have a name?
Yeah, but I guess Kira, maybe you need to incorporate this into your ghost dissertation, because what is she? She's not a ghost because she doesn't disappear. They take her home with them, and they own her now, which is very strange
And they take the singing statues, for the barbershop quartet statues as well, strapped to the car.
Yeah. I also want to know what happens to the zombies. Do they get cured? Do they get to rest in peace, or are they still going to be zombieing after? Is it just the 3 or 4 like main ghosts that get to do things? What about everything else that's going on? Apparently, this doesn't count.
Okay. The thing that really irritates me about this most, and I'm overanalyzing it because of what this kind of film this is, which is the inconsistency of the ghost rules in this kind of film. It's like sometimes they're solid, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they can manipulate physical objects, sometimes they can't.
Yeah.
I mean, because I spotted straight away, it's like, oh yeah, the reason the master isn't shaking Eddie Murphy's hand is because it's Twist going to be as a ghost, doesn't want to reveal himself at that point. Then, like a couple of scenes later, he's guiding the wife. He's got a hand around her. So he can touch her at that point. And
so,
there's
no
consistency to it.
Look, Kieran, I would really all I could think about is that this is just nonsense. That there's no theory or grounding for any of this other than just vaguely it is ghosts. This is for kids. It's based on a theme park ride. Who cares? It was basically written on a whiteboard. But what the subtext of it really is to me is that all of these white people have seen only one black woman in their entire lives, and so the next one they see obviously looks just like her. And the reason he doesn't shake Eddie Murphy's hand is because he's racist. And it's a colorism thing where the wife, she's lighter skin and Eddie Murphy's darker skin, so he doesn't like her, he doesn't respect her, but they're cool with the light skin lady. There's definitely, if we're ever allowed to do research into that stuff in America again with public funding, there's something there.
I think you'll have to burn down a couple of buildings in order for that to happen. I can't say that, can I?
No.
You have
You
to
mean-
whitewash it to cover up the fire damage, which is why it's called the White House in the first place.
What you mean is theoretically,
Yes.
in a metaphorical sense.
You'd be patriots for that. No, the two things that are interesting in this is the idea of an unmarked grave. Obviously, this comes back in ParaNorman as well, and this is a thing. Although it seems like all the zombies come out of them. Was there anything specific about that one thing where they take the key out of? Who is that person? Is that just a random skeleton? It's just this one specifically.
It's the key.
It's the guy that holds the key. Why is that one unmarked and all the others? Who is this person? We don't know. And the other thing I'm thinking of is I think it was Grady Hendrix in Paperbacks from Hell when he'd done all this stuff on House. Either that or some other part of my research, that essentially 90% of haunted house ghost stories are essentially property disputes. And this is all about kind of, who would run the house would fall into disrepair, that kind of thing. Somebody needs to run the house. Therefore, theoretically, and then selling it off. Therefore, it is theoretically a property dispute. So it does actually fit on that kind of thing. And the trouble is, if anyone hasn't heard that now, whenever you watch a haunted house movie, it will come down to a deed or a ledger or a will or finances under it somewhere, or who owns the property in something like that. It's hilarious.
Well, and that's really, whenever I try to conceive of like, what is white culture? It essentially just comes down to capitalism and ownership and property and all of that stuff. That's what this movie is about. It's about a Disney property becoming a new product for people to buy. Here's the most insane part of this
do you
movie.
wonder if not enough people were going on the ride at the time?
Or a lot of people were, and that's, let's get more people on the ride. The arrow can only go up. We cannot have a plateau at our theme park. So
I mean the ride can only have a certain capacity, though.
Oh, sure, but Disneyland can have more and more people theoretically coming in.
And you just can only get a certain amount of people on the ride, and it's like, well, the people in here, we're in here, we might as well go on the other rides if we can't get onto Haunted Mansion because it's overflowing.
We'll show this to kids, and the kids will be like, "Mom, Dad, take me to Disney so that I can ride the Haunted Mansion ride, like my favorite movie with Eddie Murphy."
Where I didn't get half the jokes.
And so this movie, like, the effects are pretty good, but it cost $90 million. I'm sure a decent chunk of that went to Eddie Murphy, and it made...
I think I'm most impressed by the sets. Really, I think the set design is really good because the proper physical sets that are there, they look amazing. But...
And
it's lit nicely as well. It looks nice, kind of cinematographically.
Yeah, as far as filmmaking craft, like, it's pretty good. Or sorry, not pretty good. It's good, but like, good is the standard for Disney making a film.
Yeah.
It's not anything exceptional in my opinion, and ultimately, it's just so boring and dumb that, like, I don't know, it sucks.
Yeah, the plot's absolute nonsense, and it's just an excuse for Eddie Murphy to do subpar stand-up basically throughout. I mean, that's which he does with most of his kids' movies. Really, it's just I'm not allowed to say any of the usual things that are funny. So I'm just gonna present this like really toothless version of my kind of stand-up personality
and make a lot of money probably. So I can't fault him for that.
So, yeah. But like I said, I think Terrence Stamp, does his job reasonably well. Obviously, spoiler, he's the main bad guy. He's behind it all, manipulating things throughout. And he's dragged off to hell at the end, which I still don't really understand why. But because he's doing a ritual, isn't he? And then this fire dragon devil thing comes out of the fireplace.
So
a
demon.
Yeah.
This really is. It's an episode of Supernatural. There's race, there's gypsies, there's zombies, there's there's too much stuff in it. And really, I guess I would show this to a kid if I need them to just like shut up and leave me alone.
I would, but then I also remember that I've got movies for Scooby-Doo that have a lot more inherent logic in it from around that time as well. So like, and the animated ones at least. Are we still streaming? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So an absolutely stacked cast. I didn't see it, but as far as I can tell, it got okay reviews. It got okay
originally meant to
reviews,
have Del Toro to do it.
Yeah, well, that didn't happen, did it?
became a box office bomb and lost Disney an estimated $117 million.
Well, I didn't see it and don't want to, so.
No.
Yeah, so it's kind of, it stands in for like the worst thing about kind of IP filmmaking of that era, really, doesn't it? In the end, it's looks quite glossy, but yeah, just
extensive use of product placement, including the following companies and brands: Amazon, Apple, Baskin Robbins, BMW, Budweiser, Burger King, Canon, Chevrolet, Costco, Dell, Fritas, Fujifilm, Hasbro, Marvel Legends, Black Panther, name more still, Monopoly, Mercedes, Pentax, Sony, Spin Master, Tito's Vodka, U-Haul, Yankee Candles, Yelp.
I'm trying to work out how half of those would even fit into like.
There's more product placement in this than the Emoji Movie. This is insane.
So U-Haul, they're probably moving.
Yeah.
They probably have iPhones, the good guys. Well, we need
guys have
we need an EMF reader. Let's go on Amazon.com, where Prime delivery in 2 days free shipping.
Yeah, they're going on their MacBook, and they get alerted that it's arrived on their Apple Watch.
And then also somebody cross checks on their Dell computer as well.
Yeah.
And then they use Zillow for the property listing.
Yeah, the kids are playing Monopoly, specifically a Marvel version of Monopoly.
Yeah, they use Yankee candles as the candles in the mansion, probably.
Yes.
Man, okay, no, I mean, we're getting this figured out. Just some of the food and drink ones are where it's confusing. Like, are the ghosts eating ice cream and drinking? I only drink Budweiser here in my haunted mansion.
Oh, this is why we didn't see it.
Why, thank you, Ramsley.
In the US and Canada, the remake was released alongside Talk to Me. We know which was the better spooky movie.
Which,
yeah. Anyway,
you remember the part in Talk to Me where they're like, "Talk to me, I'll give you Jose Cuervo."
What accent was that?
That was my Australian.
No, it wasn't.
Never do that again. Never do that
now
again.
I'm going to do it even harder. Thanks to
Okay,
Baskin
if you're
Robbins.
going to do that, let me take my ears out for a second.
I learned how to do it by watching a Disney stream on my Dell computer.
Right, let's move on very quickly.
Let's move on very quickly.
I think I'm going to end this stream now. See you all later, guys. This is the end.
My Dell computer did try to.
Yeah. Right. Let's move on very, very quickly. I would not give this a 6. I would give this maybe a 4. It's it looks nice. There's a couple of half decent attempts at jokes. Like,
I'll give it a 4. It's 4 idiots.
Vague fun for the kids. But in terms of an actual entertaining movie, this is not it.
No.
Right. Do we want to talk about a good movie?
Yeah, let's talk about a good movie.
Woo!
So, Laika are an American animation studio based in Oregon, and they've pretty much, along with Aardman in the UK and directors like Henry Selick and Guillermo del Toro, have basically kept the art of stop motion animation alive, over the past decade.
Also Seth Green and Robot Chicken.
Okay. Yes, sure. So their first feature film was Coraline in 2009, which was also the first stop motion animated film to be filmed in 3D. and they followed it up with ParaNorman, which became the second stop-motion animated film to be filmed in 3D, as well as the first animated film, but I suppose stop-motion animated film that used 3D printing to assist with them manufacturing all the different facial expressions on their little puppets. So it was a bit of a technical kind of innovator at the time.
So did they just swap the head out for every like different stage of the shot?
Yeah. So that's traditionally it's going back to something like Nightmare Before Christmas. That's how it's been done. So each character's got like a separate face they can kind of detach and put back on with all these different facial expressions on.
Yeah, and I know that like Wallace and Gromit, they've got several heads, so they have a limited range of movement for a certain amount for certain mouths.
Yeah. But before this, it was like very labor intensive to do that, to be hand making all those. But yeah, then they said, they said, oh yeah, if we just standardize all the expressions and then mass produce all these faces, then it's going to be a lot less labor intensive for animators, and it still takes you a ridiculously long amount of time, to do most of these really ambitious shots. But like apparently the scene, key scene where the ghost comes to see Norman in the bathroom stall, took over a year to animate from beginning to end, and it's like a 2-minute scene. It's just,
it's like the opposite of I Was a Teenage Werewolf.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think this is we're seeing the complete range of sort of effort put into filmmoving going on.
The binary opposition.
Yeah.
No money, lots of money, lots of time.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever do see the film, Jacob, I'd recommend watching through the credits, because you get the standard credit sequence, but after that you get like a time lapse video of like them animating Norman basically, and they put them all together and then animate him standing up, and then he just walks off the screen eventually. We see all his hands doing the work. It's really clever.
I do need to say, the only reason I didn't watch this is I would have had to buy it for $15, and that was my only viewing option. So yeah, the cast looks great. It looks like a good movie.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, so it's it's directed by Chris Butler, who's one of Leica's main kind of house writers. So he wrote basically everything that Travis Knight, the studio head at Leica, has directed. So he did Kubo and the Two Strings and Missing Link and he's working on the next Leica film as well, which will be called Wildwood.
He was also a storyboard artist on Corpse Bride and Coraline as well. So
so he's been very much involved in the industry for a long time. And the other director is Sam Fell, who's a Brit who's also works for. So his main thing was Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget for Aardman, the Chicken Run sequel a couple of years ago. So, which he directs along with Nick Park. So these are guys kind of very much people with expertise, in this kind of very kind of challenging, kind of time intensive kind of medium.
He also did Flushed Away, where the main character was
Flushed Away.
The character in that was based on Matty Healy from the 1975.
Okay.
That's a joke.
Is that one of? Yeah. He does look like it, I'll admit. Yeah, but I think Judge said that was one of Aardman's only CG animated films, I think. So he kind of straddles the line between like this very traditional form of animation with like more kind of up-to-date kind of versions, and this film kind of combines different methods as well to quite good effect. So the story is Norman. He's an 11-year-old outcast who sees dead people, basically. No one else in his
walking around all the time.
Massachusetts town. Yeah. No one else in the town can. Well, apparently not, anyway. And people just think he's weird and kind of watches too many horror films. But he seems to be more in tune with the other side, and comes to terms with death and everything like that. Basically, everyone else doesn't think about death kind of finishes grieving very, very quickly, and then just moves on basically. But it's almost implied that Norm's more in touch with that kind of side of himself, and just that he's prepared to listen and kind of take notice of people who've moved on, their families have forgotten about them, but he's basically the only human interaction a lot of these people have every day as he walks to school, say hello to all the ghosts en route. His grandma's sitting on their sofa in the house every day, and his parents keep telling him to stop making up stories about her still being around. And he basically he comes across that there's a curse on the town, which is one of these Massachusetts towns that persecuted witches back in the 16th century, and this witch's curse basically is put on the town, and which raises zombies. A particular date of the of the year, and it's Norman and his gang of sort of like a Scooby-Doo-esque kind of mystery team, basically of misfits trying to solve the mystery and work out how to lift the curse before zombies overrun the town, or before the frankly scarier human members of the town do something really stupid. I mean, it's a classic kind of film made by misfits for misfits that basically comes out inside of ordinary human people are a lot more scary and devious and twisted than anything supernatural could ever be.
Yeah.
That's my favorite, like the Walking Dead trope is actually the humans are much worse than the zombies.
Exactly. Yeah.
Zombies are pretty bad.
And they're led to think, from their town's history, because it's a town that's really trades on this being like a form of witch trials. It's like big witchy kind of tourism industry, and all the shops have got like witch puns and and they kind of really trade on that, costumes and like their kind of Thanksgiving kind of plays, basically Salem witch kind of themed as well.
Yeah.
And but basically leads to so I'm told, all the lives that this witch puts a curse on this town, and something bad is going to happen, one of these days. It turns out, really dark twist is you get Norman kind of basically seeing into the past at one point, and the big twist is that no, she was just a little girl who kind of these Puritans basically put to death, for being accused of being a witch. I mean, to be fair to them, she does actually have magical powers as well. So, but she was just.
To be fair to the murderers of this little girl.
To be fair to the murderers, she was actually a witch,
They were right.
That's not what I'm saying.
Or is it that she kind of gained them when she died, and the curse is now she's kind of able to witch stuff?
It's sort of left a bit ambiguous, isn't it? But essentially, kind of, it comes down to him going across to the afterlife and then speaking to her, and because his ghost grandma says right at the start, he's watching a zombie film. By the way, the zombie film at the start, the character it's like a really schlocky kind of stop motion animated zombie film. It's meant to look a bit like Night of the Living Dead, but with like a character that looks a bit like Jamie Lee Curtis in the lead. Which apparently that is how they animated the character. So we'll make a puppet look like Jamie Lee Curtis and animate her kind of running away from crap zombies, and having like the boom might come down on screen.
Yeah, I was thinking very much of One Cut of the Dead, where she's got to keep screaming whilst they're fixing stuff, and it's like, stop and scream again, please.
Yeah. But basically, it ends up with like, Norman going across the other side and speaking to this, this wronged little girl, basically, and just saying, they were horrible. What was done to you was terrible, but you can't punish, all their descendants forever. You have to let go. It's. And what I like about Laker in general, I wrote a piece. Well, my first piece I wrote for the film magazine was about this, and it's about Laker's obsession with death. Basically, it's like, I think I called it like films about death, but for kids. Like all of their films are to one extent or another about death and concerns with death and grief and kind of moving on, and just kind of life goes on, things pass, things fade, and doing this through animation is kind of a good way, I think, to kind of get kids to understand that early on. I mean, usually say like the most child's first experience of death is like when a pet dies, or unless they lose a grandparent like early on. But I think it's good that they present like big weighty themes like that, but in like a really entertaining manner like this. I mean, it's packed full of like references for horror fans. It's got some really good jokes in it, some innuendo in there for the for the parents and the older kids.
Again, you got the Jamie Lee Curtis thing, but obviously there's a thing of Norman looks out at one point, and you've got somebody standing in all the yard of it, like Michael is in Halloween, but it's Neil, isn't it, in a Jason mask?
Neil,
and I'm just like, oh, come on, wrong movie, come on.
And its ringtone is the Halloween theme, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, very briefly. I wonder how much they had to pay John Carpenter for that, like 2 seconds of ringtone.
Yeah, and there's weird moments where they're like a cemetery. Oh, this is really weird slasher movie stuff, and it's like, well, this is obviously a movie that you couldn't have made 30 years beforehand, because the slasher as a term wasn't around then.
Yeah, and like there's some gross out stuff, the zombies, and like there's a scene. So essentially, this town, they've got this tradition of like there's one person like every generation whose job is basically to go to the witch's burial site and read her a bedtime story, because then she's still a little girl. It's basically calming her down, keeping her to sleep, not kind of bring death and destruction on the whole town. And Mr. Pendergast is the guy, the latest guy, do this big hairy old guy, voiced by John Goodman. He's on death's door, basically knows he hasn't got long. He's got like heart condition or something. And he finds Norman because he realizes he's got the same ability to commune with the dead. Basically says, I've got to, you've got to use my book. This is your role now. You've got to, quiet the curse, and keep the witch asleep. And he visits him in this bathroom stall at school, and in his ghost form, because he's died. But so he's trying to get out of his house, and he dies. And then the ghost comes out and he says, "No, not yet." He dives back into his body and tries to get up again, and then dies properly.
Yeah.
By the time the ghost visits him at school, and he says, "Right, you've got to use my book." Along goes, "What book?" He says, "This book, the book in my hands." There's nothing in his hand because he's a ghost. He can't hold objects anymore. It's like, no. He says, "Not these hands, the other hands." So Norm's going to go to this old guy's house, find his corpse, and kind of basically rob the body of this book. And it's a great kind of slapstick there, where he kind of rigor mortis set in. He can't get the body to release the book, so drags him upright, and then kind of the body falls back on him, like his dead tongue lolls out on his face. It's just. I think kids love kind of gross out stuff like that. Really, just anything.
Kids love gross stuff and violent stuff. Like this is what they actually like. Hate to tell you.
Yeah.
Well, and if this was a worst kids movie, that body would have like farted also.
Yeah.
Although there is the moment where right at the beginning, like, he's watching the film and he walks out the room and like your dad goes, "What do you want?" Walks off, and it's like, what? And I'm like, oh, this movie's on the edge of what it's going for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Another thing I love about Laker is, I know it's like about just defaults. I've always just said that. What I like about Laker films is they're not afraid to make their characters ugly. They're kind of they're kind of you have like Pixar or a DreamWorks films, like the characters always look quite pristine and kind of aesthetically pleasing, it's like whereas like just all the characters throughout the film feel like they're all got like crooked teeth and kind of strange shaped noses, and
their eyes are sort of like hexagons,
bellies, and and like Norman, like you've got this permanent kind of bristle brush kind of haircut, no matter what he does with it.
They make them actually kind of reflective of actual people.
Yeah, kind of exaggerated, kind of all kind of humanity's kind of warts and all kind of everything. I mean, the next one they would do is box trolls, which is probably their only So it's got the least horror elements of all the films to date, but it's sort of like it's a monster movie, but it's like a comedy monster movie. But like all the townsfolk in that, they're like kind of caricatures of like Regency era, kind of where everyone's just like rogues out, like kind of crooked noses and like bad teeth, and everyone's obsessed with cheese and developing rashes because they're lactose intolerant as well as cheese obsessed.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a great shot in this where he's just his parents just told him to shut up about talking about like supernatural stuff again, and they're basically having an argument in front of him about him, but not to him. And it's like the shot's framed, so it's like you just see his face kind of looking up, kind of bemused, but his parents kind of the heads are cut off, and you just see their guts basically kind of framing it. And like all the characters in this kind of very kind of exaggerated how they look as well. You got the classic. Got Norman as fat friend Neil, and then you got Christopher Mintz-Plasse as the bully. This kind of chunky tattooed guy, and then the Neil's friend, older brother. Did I cut out there, or did other people cut out?
It might have been me. I think it was me because you both cut out.
Okay.
I mean, I wasn't saying much, and I heard Sam all the way through. So
yep,
yeah,
that it was me.
I was going to say Mitch, the older brother in this. Yes, you think he's going to be the classic kind of jock character, but yeah, at the end it's revealed he's actually gay, which makes him the first kind of openly gay animated character in a kids' film.
And this had like a backlash. I'm looking on Wiki, and you have like hilarious kind of responses. So on Wiki, there's a comment that Nancy French of the National Review Online suggested that the film could lead parents to answer unwanted questions about sex and homosexuality on the way home from the movie theater. I don't even get that. It's like he has a boyfriend. It's like, yeah, you know how like boys can have girlfriends? Yeah. They can also have boyfriends. Okay. Like, you don't need to go into anything more than that. Like,
no, you see, Christian conservatives think you have to talk about like the intricacies of how that works then physically.
But it's like a 5-year-old, like if you're gonna go into that, you have to go into it for heterosexuality as well. In which case,
exactly.
it's never brought up when any character has like a heterosexual relationship. So it's just an absolutely ridiculous comment.
Is that more or less awkward to explain than where do babies come from? It's just
But in order to differentiate the two, you have to have the explanation of where do babies come from. Like, so it's just kind of
So in this kind of, I mean, it's this thing that just keeps coming up, doesn't it? Especially in the world we live in now. It's like heteronormativity is presumed to be like the default, and everything else is an aberration that requires explanation. And we don't want our poor little kids to have to just confront anything that might confuse them or might result in more than one follow-up question. It's just bad parenting. It's parents not wanting to
parent.
Basically
it's lazy.
Yes.
Yeah,
which is hilarious because
I mean,
it's like Disney films are the ones that essentially kind of, in Disney films you kind of aspire to be they're kind of aspirational, almost from a commercial enterprise point of view. All the other independent kind of animation studios are more, the characters are meant to be relatable, not aspirational in some way. You're meant to understand something from them, not want to be them in order to buy their dresses and therefore the merch.
And also, Sam, you mentioned this Casey Affleck's guy, right? Yeah. According to the wiki, he's 19. Like, he's very clearly an adult. It's not like they're dealing with like little kids.
12-year-old.
No 5-year-old is gonna go watch this and be like, "Mom, what's buggery?" And like, no, it's not happening.
Yeah. But I mean, like anything that wouldn't be kind of suitable for a child, it's very much left in like the innuendo kind of stage.
Yeah,
in this,
we're allowed sex jokes, but apparently this is unacceptable.
Well, what's unacceptable, as you already said, is you have to talk to your kids, and that's not
about
what
different
are about.
people.
Well, just no. You
Yeah.
have to talk to your
Yeah.
kids. You take the movies to shut them up and then not engage with them.
Yes.
Having to
Yeah.
explain or think about anything is a real burden.
Yes. Sorry, my
Yeah.
mistake.
Yeah. I mean, I think probably the more difficult questions to ask to answer to your kids are all the follow-up questions I have about America's difficult religious past, and kind of the persecution they undertook
And
in the
the fact that
name of their
a
faith.
lot of this film is kind of putting the emphasis on essentially the fact that adults aren't as clever as they think, and this is actually quite a lot of the stuff.
Yeah.
I think most kind of films aimed at younger audiences with kind
Yeah.
of younger characters in it.
Yeah.
About 70 to 80% of the time, you find that
Yeah.
the real villains are actually the adults, that they have lost
Yeah.
something in a very romantic with a
Yeah.
capital R kind
Yeah.
of view.
Yeah. Because there's no really sympathetic adults in this either. I mean, no one's parents are fine, but they don't understand him, and they're kind of they've got very little patience with him and not prepared to see things from his point of view. There might be something to what he's saying. It's
Yeah.
only after literally zombies invaded their town that they're prepared to give what
Yeah.
he said some credence. But everyone else, they're just kind of fanatical, zealous psychos, basically, aren't they? Just form an angry mob at a moment's notice, to go after the zombies. And even to the extent that they don't seem to care that much that their kids have disappeared, and they're probably in where they're trying to get into to get at the zombies as well, and they're prepared to put their kids in danger just to kill the creatures.
And this actually is obviously a carryover from things like slasher movies and the teen movies and stuff like, I guess,
Yeah.
even stuff like I Was a Teenage Werewolf, the parent figures are not there a lot of the time because the teenagers are
Yeah.
out doing their own thing. When you get to slasher movies, and obviously you've got Jason and, Jamie Lee Curtis references in this. A lot of the things are the parents are away. I always think of Nightmare on Elm Street. The parents kind of Nancy's dad's kind of out of the house. The mum's an alcoholic.
Yeah.
A lot of it is kind of the teenagers having to deal with their own problems and having to solve them
Yeah.
on their own. So this is a general trend in horror that we're teaching right from a younger age. But it's hilarious that the kind of the main message is as much for the adults as the children.
Yeah.
In fact, I would actually say that the entire message of the film is towards the adults, not actually the
Yeah.
children. It's the adults who are in the wrong. This is what you need to do better.
Yeah.
Rather than the kids. And kind of, I wonder if that's a ploy because the kids want to go, therefore the adults go with them. Therefore, we essentially the kids will enjoy it, but we actually teach the adults something instead.
Yeah, I'm sure that's part of it. Yeah.
If the National Review reviewer were clever, what they would then do is twist that into, you see, there are adults who think being gay is okay, and what this movie shows is that adults are stupid and wrong, and but no, they're not smart enough to make that metatextual point.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't read the entire article, so I can't comment on that. We just got that snippet, so we may be taking it out of context.
I'm assuming that no, they just made the lazy culture war point and not what the film actually showed. No, no chance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, it's like one line right at the end. It's literally like a 10 seconds.
Yeah. Well, it's a joke basically because the Norman's older sister has
Anna
been
Kendrick,
flirting
isn't
with. Yeah, Anna Kendrick's character has been flirting with him all
Big
through
ripped
the film,
guy,
basically.
the entire movie.
Yeah. And she's a classic kind of cool girl, cheerleader kind of girl, I suppose.
Oh my god!
And yeah,
Never do that again.
Okay.
Yeah, she's been flirting with throughout the film and not getting any reaction from him, and then turns out after they've been through all that, he says, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to have to introduce you to my boyfriend. He likes all the same chick flicks you do."
And it's a really good gag as well, actually. It's not a gag, but it's played for laughs at the very least.
I can see why.
It's like a character gag, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, so, there's some really good one-liners in this. I mean, some of my favourites early on when Mr. Pendergast is trying to get Norman, to accept his mission, basically accept his calling, kind of. It goes. You've got to promise that you'll go to my house. You'll get that book and you'll lift the curse. Swear to me. And Norman goes, "What, like the F word?"
Yeah.
Is there a scene where he says, "What is this? Some kind of sixth sense?" Is that a line in the movie?
It should be, shouldn't they? Yeah.
No, but I think the fact that there's a comment about kind of seeing dead people, I'm like, yeah, there we go, there we go.
Yeah.
That is in Haunted Mansion. The little boy says, "I see dead people."
Actually, yeah, that was conscious.
You're making a spooky movie a couple of years after Sixth Sense. There's going to be a reference in there, you know.
Yeah.
No.
Again, another little interaction. Like, I mean, I love Norman and Neil's kind of nice little friendship. You know, it's a sweet friendship, but just kind of how innocent Neil is a lot of the time, but also how clued in he seems to be at other times.
Yeah.
You know, I think he's quite worldly wise. Like, it kind of Norman's like, you know, telling him what's happened and kind of what they need to do, and he says, "Mr. Pendergast appeared to me in the bathroom," and Neil's like, "Ugh."
Yeah. This is not acceptable.
Someone's gonna have to go home and explain to their child on the drive home.
Yeah, somebody's got to explain why he said "ew" at that point. Like, what does that mean? Have we taught our kids stranger danger at this point?
What's an old man appearing in a bathroom with an 11-year-old? Why does that bring along? Yeah, but I just think, I mean, I do like all like stuff for. I think it's probably, I think Kubo is probably my favorite because that's a really good film, again, about grief, funnily enough. I like the Japanese kind of mythology aspect of it, but I think ParaNorman is probably my second favorite. I just think it's a really kind of emotionally mature kind of animation for the whole family. As Kieran says, it'll teach, it'll teach lessons to adults and to kids, and with like this really entertaining kind of horror mashup kind of plot. You know, it's really fun to look at, and they've obviously put so much care and attention into creating these. Which I think there's something like 7 zombies, but they're all like individual characters and like different, they're easily recognizable. You can tell what kind of role in the town they fulfilled. You know, it's like, you know, straight away you know that's the judge. You know, and this is like the magistrate and the they've all got like clear defined roles. They don't have lines apart from the judge. They don't have actual voice lines, but they're kind of distinct characters.
Is this the judge from the witch trials?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yes, yeah. And he comes back, and essentially by the end, he's when they've just tried talking to the zombies, you know, which is fun of what Norman's ghost grandma tells him to do in the beginning. You know, when he's watching a zombie film, she goes, "Oh, I don't understand why they can't just sit down and talk it out." And that's exactly what they need to do in the end. And the judge basically comes forward and says, "Yeah, we did this horrible thing. We were wrong. Please fix this. You know, please go speak to her and say we're sorry." You know, so. You know, I think it's just a great movie. I think it's you know, just it's a really high end kind of product,
and it looks gorgeous.
It looks gorgeous. You know, great message. It's funny. It's, you know, there's a great slapstick in this as well as like all the wordplay and kind of innuendo and stuff. And I think, as an entry-level horror, you know, if you want to see a bit of the gruesome, fun imagery, but nothing too kind of traumatizing, this is probably a great one to, you know, show like I don't know, like a 10-year-old or whatever. This is a really good start.
Yeah, and there's some nice kind of folk horror stuff in there because the whole thing with the witch kind of coming back as you know, for being burned at the stake or hanged or whatever she was and coming back for revenge, that's in enough kind of horror kind of literature. And I'm thinking The Ash Tree, I think it is, by M.R. James, and there's a load of other stuff. There's some various kind of cheap horror stuff. You need a witch story. It's also always the witch was killed hundreds of years ago, now they're coming back. Paranormal, isn't that just Fear Street?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Which obviously is R.L. Stein, so that makes sense.
Yeah. And if you want another second cut kind of connection to things we covered previously, this is yet another film with Cody Smith McPhee in the lead. He keeps coming up.
Oh yeah,
It's strange that. Yeah.
good
I
acting.
mean, I will say the kids in this, the three main kid actors, not counting Anna Kendrick, and she's obviously a bit older, but the actual kid actors are great in this, and they're really good kind of vocal performances.
Yeah. I was gonna say, is this like the third Cody Smith McPhee film that we talked about in like very short succession? Because we had it vaguely related to with Let the Right One In and Let Me In as well.
And Power of the Dog.
Yeah.
Power and the Dog, yeah. Elvis, he's in.
He's in Elvis.
So this is the fourth one in like what, 8 months, something like that. Very short amount of time. Like,
Good for him.
Not even that.
Yeah, if we ever need to do an episode on him, what we'll do is we'll just do like a greatest hits compilation of several episodes and stitch it together.
Yeah.
Yeah, go watch ParaNorman. It's great.
Yes.
Yeah, and go watch all of Micah's stuff. Cause,
I thought you were about to say all the
some
movies
of the
discussed
best
today.
Go watch all the movies.
Yeah, every movie.
Yeah, they're definitely. Yeah, they're all about an hour and a half. They're all really great. Not take too much time, but they'll be well worth it. You can do them all in a day. Just binge. Have like a marathon.
The Leica films, there's also a bundle you can buy through Apple that's like $38. So that is a deal.
That's what you should do. That's what you should do.
I will say that I have seen also that there may be a kind of little bonus ParaNorman thing coming out. So a CGI ParaNorman The Thrifting is set to be released during the Halloween re-release of the film later this year. It's got Finn Wolfhard as Chad, with Anna Kendrick reprising her role as Courtney Babcock. Norman and Neil will also appear in the short. So we've got short films as well.
Nice.
Yes. Go support major animation studios making short films that aren't Disney.
It's cool that they didn't have to replace Anna Kendrick because her voice remained the same, whereas Cody Smith McPhee got old, and so his voice changed. He sounds like Batman now.
Yeah. I'm ParaNorman. No.
I am. That's at the end of The Lord of the Rings. I am Norman.
No, that's the end of Iron Man.
And that's how he stops the wraiths, which are kind of ghosts. He talks to them.
Ring Wraiths based off bit similar to Barrow Whites, aren't they?
Sure. Barrow Whites.
Baraugas so yeah. Anyway, we're going off on one now. We will cover Lord of the Rings at some point.
Yeah. Well, that's it for this week's horror stuff, but we'll be back next week with more horror stuff. Until then, guys, where can people find you?
You can find me at SSP Thinks Film and at the Second Cut Pod Substack. Again, I don't think anything new up from me this week, but I am seeing Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein tomorrow, so
are you seeing it? When's it come out?
Soon. It's not out for another week or so, but
you got an advance screening?
Yes, it's a London Film Festival advanced screening in partnership with several other cinemas around the country. So, and luckily my local is doing one. So, yeah.
Lucky you. Yeah. Hopefully you don't find me anywhere if you do MK Judgmental the various places. Nothing up yet, but I did see both Tron Ares and Good Boy over the weekend. So both of those reviews are pending. And I'm going to try and at the very least get to see Black Phone 2, which comes out on Friday. And I don't know, maybe some other stuff that comes out there. I think Keanu Reeves in a new one coming out this weekend, and some other people as well.
Is that is that a comedy movie with Seth Rogen?
Yes, I think it is.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one.
In which case, maybe Jacob will get to it. Who knows?
You can find me at Jacob Film Guy. I will write something in the future. But I am happy to report that, Sam, your father has been convinced to watch ParaNorman. You've sold it to him. And he's also excited you get to see Frankenstein. Call your dad, Sam. Let him know what's going on in your life so he's not learning through the podcast.
The Keanu Reeves one is Good Fortune. Seth Rogen, Aziz Ansari, and Keanu Reeves.
Sweet. Okay. Well, somebody will maybe review that or not. Who knows? Thank you for listening, and goodbye.
Adios.
Goodbye.